some older engines. We have a lot of people that are on a budget. Boat prices are getting higher and higher. How do you make your older engine last longer? How do you stretch it out so you can get another 10 years out of them?
Well, first we need to make sure we have a good engine. And if we have a good engine, if you made sure that you have a good engine before you start this conversation, we'll get into it. But a compression test goes a long way. So I do a relative compression and see if all the cylinders are the same. If they are, and your boat's running fantastic, what we can do to kind of help get our engines lasting as long as possible. Typical saltwater boats can last 1,000 hours, 1,100 hours. That's about what we see out of them. Any more out of saltwater, it's very difficult to say that they're going to last longer. Specifically gas. If it's diesel, 1,000 hours is low, but
right.
gas, we don't have the longevity of that. Now, what can we do? Let's say you're getting around the 700-800 hour mark and you are a saltwater boater and you want to prevent, you don't have the money to put a new engine on. I understand. What can we do to, let's say, how can we get another 1,000 hours out of this thing? The first thing you got to do is you got to run it. Most people don't realize that anything that sits for a long period of time, it's not good for it. It's really, really not good. The engines, they want to run at about 80% of whatever wide open throttle is. I wouldn't say run it at wide open if it's an old engine. I'd say 80% is probably your limit. And the reason being, if there is something that is starting to fail inside the motor, as far as, let's say, a structural item is just starting to wear out, we don't want to push it to its absolute extreme. We want to be a little bit less than that, but enough for these engines to keep going. So running it is number one. Number two, we're going to be looking at some different additives if that engine really hasn't been had any additives to it before. Now, I may be wearing a Yamaha shirt. Let's see if it's there. Yeah. But I'm not specifically a Yamaha dealer. But I do have a couple products that they make that work really well in all outboards or stern drives or older engines in general. We've got a product called Yamaha Ring-Free, and I don't sell it. You can't buy it from me. Amazon is the best place to buy it from. This Yamaha Ring-Free, most people don't understand what it does. It's not an octane booster. What it does is it changes how the flame of the fuel operates in your engine. Have you heard of Techron by Chevron?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. Yamaha Ring-Free is 100% pure Techron.
Okay.
So it's 100% concentrate fuel additive. So I don't talk about fuel additives all that much because I tend to think that most people don't need them if you're always running the boat. But if we have an older engine, maybe it's burning a little bit of oil. This Yamaha Ring-Free was developed for two-stroke engines to not have to decarbon your pistons. You run this in your fuel, it makes sure there's no carbon on the pistons, the plugs don't foul out, and you gain maximum horsepower by doing this just by getting your engine back to where it was when it was a base engine. So you have a little bit of worn out stuff. This will clean up any deposits, any debris. It's really, really good stuff. And it's 1 ounce to 10 gallons. So if you buy a 32-ounce bottle, that's 320 gallons worth of it. And I usually say this is, if you have an older engine that's never had this done before, usually I would say for like 3 or 4 tanks in a row, run this stuff. But if you are running it as a preventative to keep your engine running a really long time, let's say you have 500 hours, and I would say you could run it, every 3 or 4 tanks, just run a tank of it.
Now that's 2-stroke and 4-stroke?
Correct.
Okay.
Either is good for. If you have storage needs, meaning you're going to be storing this for a decent period of time, winterization, number one, I would definitely recommend that you run ethanol-free fuel for your last tank of the season, maybe 2 tanks. Get all the ethanol out of the system. If you want to prevent startup issues at the end or at the beginning of the new season, ethanol-free fuel is the way to go. It is the best thing out there. Rec 90 is really, really good. I believe Rec 90 is the 90 octane ethanol-free. It usually is the blue handle. It's more expensive. If you're using your boat every day, 87 is usually fine for most product, but you don't want to use it at the end of the season, or if you only use 1 tank a month or two tanks in 2 months, something like that, or 1 tank in 2 months, use ethanol-free as much as you can. That is a big deal about how do we prevent carburetor clogging if you have an older outboard, how to prevent fuel injector clogging, how to prevent fuel filter clogging, how to prevent hard starts. that is how you do it with ethanol-free fuel. So that's one big one. Most of the older engines were never designed to run on this new stuff that we have. They were all designed to run on ethanol fuel or ethanol-free fuel. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What we can also do as well is on our lower units. If you're on a budget, most people use standard oil. So what you get out of an auto parts store, either GL4, GL5 gear oil. If you're running an older outboard, I do recommend actually using Mercury High Performance lower unit oil, even in Yamahas or Hondas or of the sort. The reason for that is they have really good additives in that specific oil that I found. It's way better than Yamaha. Way better than Honda. Mostly Honda and Yamaha are actually using gear oils that were based for Yamaha is for their motorcycles. They use gear oil out of there. And for Honda, it was out of their differentials in cars. So it's not that their oil is bad. It's that Mercury is very, very specific on their lower unit oil and has extra additives to help with water. Lower units are typically one thing we really want to make sure we take good care of, because if you have an older outboard, they might not be available anymore. Yeah. So if you strike something with your boat and the lower unit comes off, and insurance will cover it, but they don't have it anymore, that's a big deal. So same thing, we want to protect the internals using the best grade of oil possible for the lower unit. The other thing for the outside of the engine, how do we prevent it from corroding? If you're a saltwater vessel and you can only get 1,000 hours, how do we stretch that out? Because corrosion is a big deal. There's a product called Mercury Corrosion Guard. Corrosion Guard is it's like a spray can, like what you use spray paint in. Yeah. And if you apply that to the power package and the lower unit, the transom bracket, everything except the zincs, it sprays on and it stays clear. And what it is it's a waxy film that prevents salt from blistering the paint or anything else on the unit. So if you're spraying that all over the prop, if you have an aluminum prop, this is how to keep the paint from peeling. Because I see so many aluminum props that the paint just rips right off and they got a big old chunk of paint missing. Spray it on there, spray it on the lower unit, spray it on the cowling, spray it on the engine itself, everything except the belt. And this thing will coat the engine in a layer of rust preventative solution. The old Verados, the big ones, had not really a problem, but their water intake faced rearward, and on boats that had a wave that came over the back, it would just dump water right into the cowling. And so I would spray all the area where the water would come in, and it would prevent everything on top from rusting.
You do that yearly? You do it multiple times throughout the season?
It depends on how much you use your boat. So the more you use the boat, the more you're going to use it. If you're using the boat less than 50 hours in the season, once a season is all for you. But if you're using the boat more 100 hours or maybe very close to it, usually twice in the season. Yeah. Perfect. I wouldn't say it's a winter thing. It's just during the season as you're using it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a huge one that people just don't think about. And what you started with, using it, that is, I do videos all the time. I did one, how long did an engine last? It's like 1,000 to 1,500 if you're a pleasure boater. And then there's always some charter fisherman that says, my Yamaha's at 3,500 hours. I'm like, yeah, when you run it every day and you change the oil and the gear lube and you're maintaining it on a monthly basis versus a every year or 2-year basis, they will last that long. But pleasure boaters, just the lack of use is huge.
The lack of use is killer. It really is,
for sure. Well, Jack, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. If you're looking for a technician in the Southern California area, check him out. If you are somebody that is doing some of your own wrenching and you need an expert, he offers some awesome rental of scan tools, remote support with video chats, and converting codes into what do you need to do to fix it. So a fantastic resource. And Jack, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with our viewers.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.